All right, welcome to the Miller Martial Arts Podcast. I'm here with myself, Cole Miller, as you know, our special guest, Micah the Maverick Miller, and Joseph Isle.
Just Joe.
Joe. Okay, Joe.
Yoga Joe.
Our guest, my brother Micah Miller, is a professional MMA fighter with 35 fights. He is a WEC, Dream, Astra, Ultimate Fighter veteran. He is a multiple-time champion as an amateur and professional. He has fought in 4 different weight classes, and he is a first-degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Welcome to the MMA podcast, Micah.
Dude, when you say it out loud like that sounds kind of badass.
Yeah.
Sounds like you had an illustrious career.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Feel good about myself. Let's go.
I'm trying to build the talent.
Let's go.
Okay, let's go. All right, so let's get into the gut check. Let's get warmed up with some easy questions. What do you do to get your day started before you go to practice?
I've experimented a lot with this because I've been really bad at it. I guess throughout my 20s mostly. But now, I try to put on something that, because I try to put on something that I can hear that's going to, like, enter my brain to, like, make me want to be productive. If I just start with, like, my own thoughts and just do it that way, like, I don't know. I just don't do as good, frankly.
So you're not a self-meditator?
Not really. It's really cool to say that you meditate these days, but I know a lot of the people that say they do, they really don't. And I'm not going to be one of those people. I go through phases where you try to do it a lot, and then you kind of stop, and then you try to do it, and you stop. I really prefer, if I'm going to do something meditative, I really like cold plunges. I think those were really meditative for me, in terms of getting like 15 minutes and clearing your head and just getting in there. Like, that's what I consider meditation. If you just kind of sit in a still room and do that stuff, like that didn't really get me, but the cold plunges did. And just going back to your question, like, dude, I'll put on some Jordan Peterson, Tony Robbins, stuff like that, just kind of like force it into my brain, and then as I'm doing that, it's like, okay, I can like the Tim Ferriss, like, make your bed first in the morning type thing, like, do that thing, get one little task in, and then boom, I can like get momentum started in my day, and then then I hit the gym like in the morning first thing, usually.
Okay. Are you a morning roller like Cole?
No.
Is not?
No.
Cole didn't do anything before 10 a.m.
I can't do. I say I can't do. I don't perform as well in the morning, competitively, or just really competitively anything. A lot of the morning stuff for me, I would prefer is more technical and like strength and conditioning, mindless, like just give effort, like if I can have like the ideal morning, it's going to be usually that, just something that is mindless or doesn't require like a lot of competition, but just give effort,
I can do striking related things like boxing and Muay Thai, or like you were saying, like weights, but I cannot grapple in the morning.
Yeah.
I feel like the Tin Man.
Yeah. You mean like pads and stuff?
Yeah, like pads,
like
or
give me a combination that I can focus on, bomb.
Right.
But as far as the creativity of a grappling session or something, it's just, I don't know. Yeah. The mental grooves aren't greased either. Not just like physically,
What about food?
Food. Gonna narrow it down for me?
Yeah, like in the morning, like before you hit that first morning practice. Like, what do you like to eat or drink or not eat? Do you fast?
I try to wake up and it's hard for me to keep weight on, so I'm always gonna try to eat before I do anything. For me, mostly we're getting a smoothie in, just so it's already kind of like broken down in the blender. I take it in, and the body's already kind of like getting it in there. I try not to take like eat a lot of pancakes or something, something that you really have to like, your body has to break down, all the blood rushes to your stomach, all that stuff. So Yeah, I'm not trying to eat that. It's always something quick in the morning, especially.
All right. So where did your nickname, the Maverick, come from?
So the Maverick started as like a like a joke on our first instructor, because we had a manager who didn't really do much managing, if you remember. And I was just I was trying to get after it, man. I was trying to get fights, trying to compete, and I was going out and getting fights on my own. And my instructor called me an insubordinate maverick, because I was going behind management and going to get these fights without proper approval. But it was the only way that I was trying to get where I was ultimately trying to go. You needed fights, man. So getting fight, for those of you out there that just think it's easy, it is not easy getting fights, man. My first fight that was supposed to happen, the guy got pulled over and taken to jail on the way to the event to fight me. Like, I've had a fighter pull out on me while I was getting my hands wrapped. Like, it's just, even when you get the thing signed and you're this close to fighting, like, there's so many stories, man, where you're still not fighting.
we might get into a few of those. Your favorite piece of martial arts training equipment? It could be generic, like heavy bag or boxing gloves, or you can name a specific brand, whatever.
Of like a glove or like
whatever
a tool?
Yeah, whatever your favorite piece of overall training equipment is.
Foam roller.
Yeah, I mean, Yoga Joe's got a point.
Related to the combat sports, martial arts.
Combat sports. Could it be like a certain kind of mitt?
Yeah.
Or okay. No. You know what? Something that I felt I got use out of was the dick bag.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Howard used to call it the dick bag.
Yeah. Yeah. Our coach Howard Davis Jr., rest in peace.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I remember he showed me how to work that thing a little bit, and as far as like a tool that you can use on your own, I started to have a lot of fun with it, and it was something that I never saw people really using a lot. Like, people just walk by it all the time, and I remember using it a lot, and it kind of helped me get a lot of head movement rhythm, and I can get creative with it and kind of like make my own rhythms with it, like, you know. So I think that's a overlooked piece that I really like to use.
And to give the people some reference, it's basically a bag, like a speed bag, that's hanging from a chain, and it's filled with sand. So it has a little bit of heavy weight to it, and all you do is you grab this bag and you push it forward. So the only thing this bag does is goes forward and backward, and it's mainly used for head movement. And the reason that Coach Howard called it the dick bag, because this is not the most PC first podcast for us, but like basically that nobody wanted to get hit in the head with a dick.
And if you did, he'd look at you and point and like laugh at you like you just got hit in the head with a dick.
Yeah.
So
that's why he dubbed it that. And
So it's the bag that's suspended from the top and the bottom.
No,
that's a double end bag.
Okay,
but this is just suspended from the top on like a chain. It's a speed bag, but it doesn't have the bladder blown up in it with the air. It's filled with like sand. So it, like, if it hits you, it's not going to lacerate you. It's not even going to rock you. But if it hits you, it will not be comfortable.
Yeah.
You're not going to go, oh, it was like a balloon hitting me.
Ooh,
it's gonna suck.
Yeah.
But like basically you throw it, it goes forward, back, and you'll slip it, and that means it's behind you now.
Right.
So you need to like do another set of head movement for it to come and pass in front of you without hitting you in the back of the head.
I gotcha.
It's a great hand-eye coordination, and then once you get to doing it, you're actually throwing punches at it and then slipping it as if it's like a fist coming by your head, and you're counter punching and you're moving and you're dipping under it, kind of like you see like a really good boxer or wrestler using the jump rope and doing all the crazy stuff. You can take this basic bag and use it as a tool to develop some really cool techniques, and you can get wild with it.
And I've seen this new one. What's the new one with the little pole that swings around? The pole. It's like a straight up pole, and then there's like and then it's perpendicular to it, and spins around. You like punch it, and you roll underneath it. Have you seen it?
I'm not sure I've
No,
seen
there's one
this.
out here. Yeah, I see all the young prodigy kids hitting it.
Okay.
Like the 12-year-olds. It's super fast. Like you punch it, it swings around and comes around this way, and then you'll see kids like block it, and then when they block it, it goes around this way, and then they'll hit it.
We have one right out here.
Around, yeah.
Okay.
Hook, so it like comes around. But yeah, it's
Cool.
that I haven't used that yet, but I really want to check it out because I see kind of some parallels there. that
We'll
you
go
could
play
use
with it right
yeah,
after this.
with the double end bag.
All right, what's your pet peeve on the mat with regard to martial arts or fighters or
Just
students? What is one? You can name a couple. This is your show.
It's my show. Man, pet peeves. I mean, you got to just start with the basics, like getting sliced with toenails.
Ooh.
Can't stand it. People who smell. So I get, like, just bad hygiene
Yeah.
is bad. Man, when I went to Saudi Arabia to go teach, the hygiene was like the best anywhere I've ever been, like as far as being on the mat, and I feel like that really rubbed off on me even more so. Like when I came back, like I'm like showering before training and like putting on like a little cologne and like
I want to smell
like
nice out there.
this is like how people would show up to train,
Right.
Like back then, I was like, I like this. This is like to have a full mat full of everybody that's doing that. Like it really kind of like just showed me a different way to do it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, this is how I like to do it now, you know. So so when you come back to, you know, America and kind of train with some trash bags, it's like, okay, it stands out to you. Like don't like that.
What about with MMA fighters specifically? What's one
MMA
thing that you
fighters.
notice? They can be young guys or it could be an experienced guy. What's something that you see that you really don't like from a training partner?
Just no real intelligence with, like, I guess preserving your partner's body.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've been training with somebody and like somebody got in on a double and then they eventually got to the point where they got me off the floor, and instead of like going for the takedown, they slammed me directly on my back.
They jump off the ground, then they hit you
I
with
mean,
some sort of like spike type of maneuver.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They pick you up and like they don't bring you down, they slam you down. And it's like that has no place.
And this is a individual that's supposed to be your teammate.
Right, yeah.
Right.
So there's nothing that can be even interpreted as like productive
Right.
with that. Like you're not working on your slam.
Right.
You know, like the hard part is like the setup, the penetration, the lift. But once you're in the air,
They're going down. What
going
goes up
down.
must come down.
yeah. So there's no misinterpretation there. That's just ego. It's just
Mhm.
just trying to like be super competitive. So like that stuff. That's what irks me is like, you know, not taking care of your partner.
Yeah.
And just training dangerously. Like there's no reason to slam somebody. That's
Does that come
in
from
midair.
lack of experience, or does that come from like just openly spazzy?
I think it comes from just trying to get over on somebody in a competitive environment.
Yeah, you're operating at a high level. You're
Trying to
on the
prove your
cusp
worth.
of making it to the big show, or you're in a training camp for the big show, and you're in this dog eat dog mentality training at a super team, and you pick this guy up and you're in your mind, it's like, I'm fighting, you know, like I've got this fight in a couple weeks. I'm going to do everything that I would do in the fight. Train how you fight how you train, like that kind of
Right.
mindset. And it's not always a spaz. A lot of people think that that's like nah, man, you can be at any team. Doesn't matter where you're at in the world, a big team, high level guy that fights in the biggest of show who's technical. And he can be like this because he's so amped up, just because due to the stresses and like what my brother was saying, ego.
Yeah. And it's the other one is like, if your partner knows you have a fight coming up or knows you're competing in like a week, 2 weeks, like really the 2 week is like, I think the cutoff. Like if you maybe not the cutoff, but like if they know there's a fight coming up, you got serious money on the line, or even if you don't, it's like the level of protection needs to be even higher.
I think we'll get into this a little bit more when I bring Dean Thomas on the show.
Yeah.
And I'll talk to him more
just
about
different
that.
etiquette
That's
stuff like
something
that.
he's big on.
Yeah, like I've had my what felt like my ribs were cracked like a week before the fight because somebody just wanted to throw a knee, like, and they knew I was fighting, and it's just like directly. It's just like stuff like that. It just doesn't. It's not productive. It's kind of mindless, and there's a better way. What it comes down to.
All right. So what would be your favorite? We're going to go takedown, sweep, pass, and submission. And this could be the one that you do the most, or it could just be your favorite that you like the way it looks and you hit it once every blue moon, but it's just cool and it's your favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite takedown.
Favorite takedown?
Go.
I like the it's not the Uchimata. Or is it the Uchimata where you have the underhook? Because you have
It's
the
the one
overhook,
leg
right?
splitting the two and elevating the person off the ground.
Yeah, and you're like hip throwing them, but like you don't have the overhook. You have
It could
the
be over
underhook.
or under.
Okay, yeah.
But there's one leg splitting the two.
Yeah. That's
Uchimata?
that's my
Okay.
favorite.
Sweep.
Favorite sweep. Just
Hook sweep.
Hook sweep from butterfly guard or
Mhm.
butter half, one of those positions. What about guard pass?
I really for MMA like to pass the guard, I guess facing the hips would be my preferred method.
So like moving to a reverse scarf hold,
yeah,
half
like moving
guard.
to like a reverse half, I guess.
Yeah.
Position. I think that's best for MMA personally, because I think that people have such an instinct to just get up in fighting that when you move to reverse half, you're just knocking on the door like to get the bag.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just kind of daring them to do it, and they always do it. Pretty much, they just always do it because they have that instinct to get up.
Even
get up,
jiu-jitsu
get up.
guys will
Yeah.
do it. Even jiu-jitsu guys will do it.
Yeah, so
What-
I think that's my favorite one.
What about submission?
Man, the go-go plata has to be
Go-go.
king. Like,
Man,
I don't
the-
hit it a lot, but dude, it's just I think it's the move that is like the fake newsist looking move that is actually legit.
Legit. Go ahead. What's your favorite go-go plata pulled off in mixed martial arts?
Man, you gotta go Diaz Gomi, right?
Diaz Gomi. It's got to be. That's one of the
Just too
best
good.
fights of all time.
Yeah, the fight itself is like legendary, and then you got
The finish.
the finish, man. What you know about that, Yoga Joe?
Nothing.
About that MMA historia?
Nothing.
No.
We'll have to pull it up later.
There's a
on the
man
ride
named
home.
Nick Diaz.
Nick?
He used to fight once upon a time.
He's coming back.
What is your favorite acai bowl toppings?
Hemp seeds, maca powder, drizzled peanut butter, banana and strawberry.
Good man. Good man. Do you like the honey over the top or syrup or agave or any of that stuff? Or just
Not really.
Okay.
No, not really.
All
Not
right.
really.
Well,
The
who's
the peanut butter's like over the top. A little.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah,
syrup.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like a
Like the syrup
topping.
thing.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite jiu-jitsu player? Not MMA, not jiu-jitsu in MMA. Jiu-jitsu player of all time.
Don't say it yourself.
Of all time,
Mm-hmm.
man.
They could have participated in MMA, but
Okay, maybe. I mean, Marcelo is just the man. Just from it like we got to train with him. We were lucky enough to get trained with him, once upon a time. And it's just cool to see that the best guy is like the nicest guy.
he's the best person.
Yeah, like the best person is also the best grappler, and it's just in this world that we see so many like shitheads like everywhere that just walk in the gym and like they're just not really down for anybody else.
There's no humility.
Yeah.
They're all about the self.
to see that the best elite guy is also the best, I think there's like tremendous value in that.
Okay.
I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Agreed. And mixed martial arts fighter.
Man, MMA fighter. I gotta pick just one.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be the favorite. Let's say what's one of your top 5 that comes to mind?
Anderson Silva.
Mm-hmm.
I loved what he did in an era where everybody was like, you have to be the wrestler, and he's like, people say he's like the GOAT. Like John Jones is probably gonna end up taking that position, but like
no doubt.
But Anderson, for a really long time, people said he was the best they'd ever seen, but he was not a wrestler.
Right.
But they also at the same time said you have to be a wrestler to like be good at this.
Yeah.
So it was cool to see somebody who, because look, I started wrestling first, but it's not my best
Right.
feature. So it was cool. So I look to see guys who I could be like. That's what I really look for, or see somebody that has like a skill,
Attributes.
that certain attributes that I could kind of emulate, imitate, or even just see things that are successful. Like for example, one reason why I moved up in weight is like you don't see any 6'1", 145er champs. It's like there's a reason for that.
Right.
It's like you can take this to football. I think football, maybe we can get into this. I think football has a lot of parallels with MMA. I learned this from Adam Singer. He's one of my first coaches, and
the Super Chip is this weekend.
Yeah, Super Chip.
Joe Montana's play.
Yeah.
Joe Montana versus Steve Young.
But I think that you see certain positions that require certain skills and abilities, and then certain body types and physical attributes end up being best served at certain positions. And I just saw that, and I was like, man, maybe I should move up. So it's the same thing. Like I see like a guy like Anderson, who's like a taller, leaner guy, who is really using a lot of Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu as really his primary style. So, that guy's one of my favorites. I love Nick Diaz. Again, same thing. He's a guy that's kind of built like me, primarily boxing, Jiu-Jitsu. Took him at a really high level. Shinya Aoki. Somebody who just really specialized and was just very kind of like not physically imposing, bendy kind of guy, like not really.
But he forced the grappling encounter.
Yeah, he forced the grappling. Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira, or Minotauro Nogueira, I guess I should say. Again, boxing, jiu-jitsu, and just the heart. So those are some of my favorite guys coming up.
All right. Well,
especially modern, like Sakuraba, I would throw in there, but I don't really try to emulate Sakuraba.
Right.
In terms of like the way they do the striking and the grappling. But yeah, those are probably my top 5.
All right. That's done with the gut check.
Oh.
Let's get down to your origin story. Where were you born? Where did you grow up? And what was life like?
Yeah, we born in Chicago, Illinois, on like a naval base. I guess it was North Chicago. We moved a lot of places, but I think
a lot of places.
Virginia Beach is one of the first like kind of memories I have. I know Jacksonville is one of the first memories. Jacksonville is probably the first memory I have. Just playing with like Super Nintendo, like watching you play. I mean, I can remember still, like I have some really vivid memories of like me sitting in a high chair, like stuff like that I feel like some people say they've completely forgotten. But yeah, Jacksonville is in there. Maryland was in there.
Why'd you move around so much?
Yeah, the parents were in the Navy. Parents divorced. So we were with our mother, as you know. But yeah, just moved around a lot through military family, and eventually we settled in Georgia. because that's where all our family was. And once we kind of settled down, things got a little better. But man, I was a really kind of an angry kid. Just I really think that not having a father to stabilize the family, I think I was really affected by that. Because my mother had a husband, but we didn't get along at all. And it wasn't we just didn't get along. We were really like at odds with each other. And man, we hated each other growing up. So I think for me, like, just I was really an angry kid. I sent to therapy a lot. Just didn't have that kind of that father figure. Like we would go see him in the summers,
Mm-hmm.
which was great, and got to see that side of the family.
And every
all
other
that,
holiday.
and the holidays. But I think that not having him around to like be the dad, I think left a lot of anger in me, and seeing the guy that was living with my mom, who was supposed to be not saying that he should have been the dad, but like I was hating that guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like hating the guy who was with my mother and seeing my real dad every now and then. And I think when you see your real dad like every now and then, I think there's a lot of pressure to be like, it's like
Over the top.
you're like the vacation dad.
Yeah.
Like you don't see your kid at every holiday and summer, so it's like you're kind of like just giving them all the positive emotions and like everything like that. So
There's nothing but love there. There's
yeah,
not like
there's not like a stable, even keel like parenthood there. So I know that was hard, but I think growing up that way, like, made me really, I was saying, really angry and hard to deal with, like growing up with 3 other kids in the family. And
What was the relationship like with the brothers and stepsister?
I mean, I was just acting out a lot. I think, we fought a lot. Me and my little brother fought a lot. Me and my stepsister fought a lot. I think there was just a lot of misplaced anger there. Like, I just didn't know what to do with it. Played some sports and stuff here and there, but I was just a kid who didn't really know, who had this void and didn't really know like what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm surrounded by this guy that I don't like, but I want my dad there, but I know he can't be there. So it was really, I didn't find, like, until I found wrestling, I didn't know how to like kind of take that energy and like direct it in a certain way. But once I found it, like, I think my life overall started to go on a positive trajectory.
And how old were you when you found wrestling?
I think it was 15.
What other sports did
maybe.
you play before that?
I did baseball. Went to baseball camp and stuff younger. Like, it was fun, but the team sports didn't really, wasn't really in love with them. Tried football, I think, in 7th grade, 8th grade. But
Played soccer 1 year?
Yeah, I played soccer 1 year, which was fun. But the team stuff didn't really pull me.
And so what got you to get on the mat?
Man, Frank Perez, shout out to Frank Perez, was always trying to get me to, because they needed somebody light enough. And I was a runt. I was like a skinny little, like 6 foot, like runt, man. But he was always trying to get me on the team because they just didn't have anybody to fill the weight class.
Give these people some perspective. What weight class was that?
Yeah, what was it?
125. Your first year, you wrestled at 125.
Yeah. Okay, so but I guess we were eligible maybe in 8th grade because the school, we went to a private school, so we had 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. They were all together, so you could be on that varsity team, or maybe even practice with them.
Mm-hmm.
I think the rules changed as I got older.
Right.
Like because I think 8th grade couldn't be varsity, but I think eventually they could. But the whole point was it was all one team. The high schoolers were all one team. And they were trying to get me on there, I think at 112 or 115 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, nah, I'm not trying to wrestle. Just I don't know. I didn't know anything about it. It just wasn't a thing. But once we saw, we walked Pride 20 something Championship Chaos. Man, it was in 2002. And everything changed, man. Heath Herring, Noguera, Sakuraba Vanderlei, just like I got to see that for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me want to be like kind of on that path to combat sports. And then I saw the wrestling in the net, and then once I saw that, I was like, okay, I'll give that a try. But yeah, I think maybe 9th grade, got in there at 125.
Mm-hmm.
I was like damn near 6 feet around that time. So it was just a beanpole outland. But
What was your high school wrestling career like?
Like
you came in as a 9th grader at 125. Did you just come in wrecking shit?
No, not at all, man.
at 6 feet 5'11" area as a 9th grader, just you didn't come in just demolishing people.
Abe Lincoln looking.
No, just getting a lot of getting crushed.
Okay, yeah.
Just getting crushed some more. Then you go back home, kind of rebuild your confidence and
take it out on your brothers.
And like go back again and then get crushed some more. Yeah, my one thing that I can say that I did learn is that this was the first time like I saw like athletic levels.
Mm-hmm.
Say that there's levels to this, you know.
Right.
It likes to say that. It's like kind of cliche, but it's so true. I saw like high school wrestling level at like a private school, and then my dad hooked me up to the point where I started going to public school to train, which I guess wasn't like allowed, but
Legal.
Yeah, they just did it anyway. So I get off school and then go to this guy's practice, which is I think the guy he wrestled for.
Right.
And they had a lot of good talent. They had a coach coming over there who wrestled at Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
So like he wrestled in college, and you kind of like it was rubbing off on everybody, and they ran it like guys who were like trying to win, you know.
Right.
So I got to see what that was like versus, you know, a coach that was like in over his head, nice guy, great guy, kind of in over his head, you know, got tasked with coaching a wrestling team versus like going to a program that wanted to win. And I was like, okay, this kind of like it like woke me up. It was like, okay, if you're gonna do this is way different, and like you gotta bust your ass, because the work ethic that it took in wrestling, it's been talked about a lot. It's true. You know, you get pushed to a level that you didn't think that you didn't know it was there. You know, like I never. This was the first time like touching like a window of like, wow, this is like the next hard work level that I've never been to.
After getting, you know, your first little kind of mini year in the 8th grade, and then 9th grade, you actually wrestled. What was 10th, 11th, and 12th like? You did pretty good.
Yeah, 10th grade was the first grade where I started to kind of like win a little bit.
You placed in state?
Third. I think I got third in state.
Third, okay.
Yeah, because first year I didn't place. Yeah, because I got better every year pretty much. But yeah, I got. Yeah, I remember leaving there with a bronze medal, and I was like, you know what, I wasn't even here last year. It was like, that was cool, you know. It's like maybe I could actually be good at this. And so yeah, just like I think put in some work over the summer with that same coach at a wrestling camp.
Mm-hmm.
So went to a wrestling camp for the first time, which was kind of tough because like, man, I was still getting like, even so like I was bullied when I was a kid, but it was weird to be bullied by kids younger than you.
They've been doing this a lot longer than you.
Chew on that.
So it was like I was at this wrestling camp, and I remember just like trying to make friends with these kids, and these younger kids were just like trying to bully me in a group, And I remember my coach saw this, and he blew the whistle, and he told everybody to get off the mat. One of the kids that was talking shit, he made him get in the center, and then he put me in the center, and then we just had to go at it. And man, I whooped this kid's ass. Put him in the guillotine, the twister, whatever you want to call it these days. Which that was like my first move that I learned that was like super technical, that nobody kind of really knew what was going on. That was very like length oriented and very like just
Leg
my
riding.
style, like leg riding, like inch by inching your way up the body, and like it didn't take power, but like it was like a move that I learned that like my body was good at, like something like 'cause wrestling. I don't have the ideal wrestler body for those at home who don't
Might
know
be
what that looks
uneducated
like.
to wrestling.
I don't have the exact wrestler body, but I found this move for the first time that was like, wow, this is like built for me, you know? And I remember putting him in it and had him pinned and feeling him give up, but I just got to crank on him a little bit. The coach let me just like do it. And after that, yeah, they didn't mess with me anymore.
Was it one of those? Was wrestling one of those things like you picked up very quickly, or was it one of those things where you worked and worked and worked, and it was like, it was the trial and tribulation that made you better, or is it like, oh, I'm figuring out body positions on your own?
No, like you're definitely terrible at the beginning, and you do get better, like as you train more. But the real takeoff comes when you find something that's like good for you. Which I was telling you, that move, like that particular move, like once I found that move and then I started looking at setups for that move, it's like I started to just get way better, or just the results I got were way better versus like kind of trying to do everything. You're in that skill collection mode, and you're trying to like learn all these moves and get them all down, but some of them you're just not good at. So when you find that style that you see more results with, it's like, okay, I'm going to start putting more into these techniques. And then I really started to get better, and got second at the state championship the junior year, and senior year I made it to the finals, beating the guy who beat me in the finals the previous year. So I beat him in the semifinals, and then I lost to the guy who basically the only guy who beat me all year. I think I wrestled him 2 or 3 times, and he beat me. It was always by like a point every time.
Yeah.
And he beat me.
And he had the typical wrestler body.
Yeah.
I mean, he was short, he was stocky, he had muscles that to this day I still will never have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, you had a good high school wrestling career. Third in state once, twice in state, twice. It's pretty good.
Yeah, second.
And somewhere in there in high school, you started training mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
At our the first team that we trained with, Academy of the Fighting Arts, Team AFA, which later switched to Team Praxis with our first coach, awesome coach Cam McCarg, good pro fighter, Georgia MMA pioneer, Georgia MMA Hall of Famer, a very interesting individual. Like a lot of people would not have access to a guy who had that type of mindset when it came to fighting.
Yeah.
Like he would fit in perfect today with the 10th Planet system and the type of mindset that a guy like Aoki has and stuff like that. But I feel like he was ahead of his time. He just didn't come from American Top Team or Jackson's MMA or one of these super teams. He was a self-taught grappler who had some experience in gymnastics, and he had like a Wing Chun instructor, and he was good. He could tap out some of the best guys. Like he had some holes in his game because of the way that he learned how to grapple, but nobody can knock his submissions. They were really stellar. And so I had already been training and fighting. I'd already had some fights, when you started training in high school. But why don't we lead up into your first MMA fight? Amateur mixed martial arts fight.
First amateur fight. So we're training at Gold's Gym mainly.
And how old are you?
17. Yeah, 17. So yeah, we're training a lot there. Me and you were like pretty much the smallest guys. It was me, you, and this girl named Dee, and Bubby. But I don't remember Bubby training at the Golds a whole lot. He'd come to the.
He was there.
Yeah, he was there. I guess I didn't train with him very much, but yeah, you're the smallest guy in the room most of the time, and you're learning against bigger opposition, and you're learning kind of like it's like you're learning grappling, but it's all with the fighting in the back of your head. Like fighting is what you're doing, so you're the grappling you're learning. You're learning it. It's not like traditional jiu-jitsu.
Not like what we do at our academy at all. We have classes. We have like structure. We have like, this is what we're doing, guys. We got the gis on. A lot of people train
the right way.
a lot of people for fun and self-defense and get in shape. They like the mental test of it. They like to push themselves to the limits on a more personal level, but not so much let's destroy each other every day kind of level. But where we trained originally was essentially like a club team more than like an academy or school type of thing. But I would say that atmosphere is why we got so good so fast, because we were motivated to fight. Yeah.
Looking back at it now, it's really kind of crazy. Like, because I still haven't seen guys that, not to like say that you and I are like the greatest, but like I still haven't seen guys who have kind of come up in that environment that quick and then had the success that we had.
Right.
Like as fast as we had it, like getting right to fighting.
I trained 5 months before I had my first fight.
Yeah, and just you're fighting guys who are like more experienced, more man, like
we were boys.
Yeah. So looking back, man, it's really kind of crazy, but it's because we came up in that environment. We came up with a guy who was a pro. Like, we didn't know that we were only kids, and like that,
And he didn't treat us like that.
Yeah, we didn't get treated like kids. We gloved up and we went at it with guys who were mostly just all older than us and bigger than us. So yeah, we weren't babied at all. We weren't gone at extra hard either. But coming up, it was mostly grappling for me because I was wrestling. And man, I remember somebody had pulled out of a fight, and I just remember when the Cam asked me if I wanted to fight, I was just so excited because I was turning 18 like the week before this fight, so I had to be 18 to fight, and according to the law. And it felt really good to like put the work in and then just have your instructor be like, ask you if you want to take the next step.
And if I'm right, weren't you in the middle or just finished wrestling season and then you fought just a couple weeks later?
Yeah,
I'm looking here, and the fight is February 26th.
Yeah,
so that means that it was just after wrestling season.
Yeah, so wrestling's just finishing up. So I'm in good shape and just training. The only thing is, man, I had no striking, and that was the problem. I think going into a lot of my early amateur career is a lot of the stuff was grappling oriented, and we didn't have a lot of like good boxing training or anything like that. And
I think at the time you didn't see at the high level. We had the Maurice Smith. We had the Mark Coleman. We had wrestlers that did become world champion. Mark Kerr was crushing it in Pride at the time. Mm-hmm. But you still almost had if you labeled yourself as a striker, it was almost like you had like a stigma on you. Like anybody that called themselves a striker, that just meant all you had to do is take him down and crush him.
Yeah, like they're going to fall down.
It's still, it was in a time, and amateur, by the way, it's amateur. So that means that these guys are not getting paid. In Georgia, the rules were pretty much the same. You had a 4-minute round instead of a 5-minute round. You could still knee the head, kick to the face. Just no elbows for Georgia. But we fought in some other states that allowed all that stuff. But
That's
it's
important.
almost like
That's important to keep in mind too.
Right.
Like we never had amateur fights.
Correct.
They were just fights, man.
Yeah.
Like
but even if we had access to a boxing gym and a great boxing coach, at the time, at the level where we were in the southeastern United States, dude, nobody was like who was a striker was winning.
yeah.
All those guys were losing. So it's
submitted.
like you want to put all your eggs in the basket that's going to get you the most success. So he had Micah had the wrestling background, and his wrestling style was very like we were leg riding, and he was putting hooks in, and he was getting into positions of dominance, and I think that it crossed over well, and that's why he could go from not training mixed martial arts for the whole wrestling season. He had dabbled, but then just going like wrestling season, okay, I'm going to fight. I think that it was, that's part of the reason he was able to do it. So you're in high school, it's your senior year, and you finish wrestling season, you get this second place medal. You're probably still angry about that, and you're just elated that you get the opportunity to go in there and fight. And we go to Augusta.
Yep.
And what happened?
Well, you beat up some dude in your last amateur fight. One first round triangle, I think, right?
Yep.
And then our dad fought earlier that night.
Amateur kickboxing.
Throw out to Tim.
Shout out. Knocked out a guy named the Tub Doctor.
And our dad it'd been a long time, but he'd had 40 kickboxing fights. And then he fought this guy who had not had any. Shout out to the Tub Doctor. R.I.P.
Yeah. So yeah, he went out and showed out, and then I fought, and man, it was such a cool experience. I remember my science teacher came and watched me.
Yep. Mr. Freeman,
which was
all love.
Todd Freeman, shout out. Which was cool because like I remember trying football. Like he was a coach that I really liked. He was a guy that like, he was somebody that you wanted to perform for.
And he was a teacher that cared.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the one cool thing about like where we went to school is like the faculty really actually gave a crap about the kids.
Yeah.
And Todd Freeman was awesome. And like think about where we were. We're in Georgia. Like
this isn't big yet, guys.
This is nothing.
This is nothing. Nobody knows any of this. There's no jiu-jitsu school anywhere.
No Ultimate Fighter.
That was
There's
gonna be my
no
question, is like how you
fighting.
even discovered it, or like, because this is almost like pre-internet. I mean, not that in depth, but like it's not like people are streaming fights and
Right.
all this other stuff. Like most times we're picking
Fighting
stuff
isn't
up.
even on TV yet.
Yeah, it's pay-per-view. It's not even on Ultimate Fighter. We're talking about pre-tough when Micah had his first fight, and he's in high school. So to have a teacher that, while everybody else is telling you that this is barbaric, first off, they're right. Second, you have to tell them that they're not right and how educated everybody is and how intricate all the movements are, which it is also right. But you had while everybody else is telling you, oh my God, that's so barbaric. You had a teacher drive almost 3 hours onto this Army base to support him.
Yeah.
And me. That's cool.
And like I didn't like school. I didn't like, especially homework. Homework was what held me back. Like
so you weren't an academic.
I didn't do homework. Like
An academic.
Like whatever that percentage of like the grade is that homework is like pretty much a 0. So it's like if it's 30%, the best you can get in the class is like a 70. You know what I mean?
If you did no homework.
Yeah, like homework is just like the bane of my existence. Like and it still is. Like the amount of work they would give you once you were already there, like what
7-8 hours
8 hours a day was absurd. And it just, for me, I didn't see it. Like that wasn't me. That wasn't my path. That was never going to be my path. And I think he saw that, and he saw something that I was like really excited to do and something that I really wanted to give my energy to. Because like I wasn't big enough to play football. Man, if I could do it, like my dream would be to play football. It really would be, to be a football player. But I just didn't have the athleticism, didn't have the body. And he knew that, even though I went out and tried out and like tried to play football. Like he encouraged it, but like he knew that wasn't something that I was gonna like have a shot starting or play or anything. But I could do this thing over here.
Yeah.
So he was like really cool in supporting that.
So you get to the fight, like you said, there wasn't too much striking, but the way I remember it was you were throwing fucking hands, man. Like it wasn't like this kid went out and shot on this other, guy.
No, I shot.
I
shot.
But you threw some hands. I remember you just running at the guy.
I threw some hands, man. We came out. I shot at first, I think. But a lot of the fight really was just me relentlessly going for takedowns and then getting a position and then trying to get a submission.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a triangle and I rolled him over into mount. Or wait, no. What happened when George Allen like stopped us and
stood
then
y'all up or something? It was like y'all were in the ropes or something.
We were in
like
some
that.
kind of position where I was punching the guy.
And his leg was in the rope or arm was around the rope. Some kind of weird
There was some
thing.
kind of weird thing where I was punching him and then he pulled me off and I thought I won. And he was like, no, you can't do this at
Back
this
of the
time
head?
or something. Yeah, maybe something like that. And so he just restarted it, which was cool because it gave us like the experience that we like. We didn't just like end the fight prematurely. You know what I mean? Whereas if somebody made a call that like looked like they were stopping it and then they stopped it and then it was like, oh, but I can't go back and change it. You know what I mean? Like George like stopped the action and then kind of reset us in a way that like I feel like nobody would do these days. You know what I mean? Because it gave us the opportunity to keep going.
And he's a great referee. He's a Georgia MMA Hall of Famer. He's a Georgia MMA pioneer as far as a fighter. He is part of the athletic commission. He's a referee for the athletic commission. You've seen him referee fights in the UFC and every fight on every Georgia MMA card, and he's phenomenal too. So you were lucky to be able to have him ref that first fight. So,
and then we were throwing hands.
Yeah, and then you end up finishing with.
So I came out just throwing to the hip. Dude, like Tank Abbott, just like, just feeling like a warrior.
But you end up going to the ground and you finish him with, was it TKO or a rear naked choke or?
No, mounted triangle punches.
Okay, TKO.
So put him in a triangle, rolled him over, and then punched him from the top.
We had because we didn't have like a normal like martial arts school, we had a close knit group of guys, and there's only like 3 cornermen allowed. It's like me, Bubby, and Cam in the corner. Mm-hmm. But it's like we had Waller in the corner and Trey Brown in the corner. And there was just people behind them that were all yelling inside of it too. So you had like your whole team in your corner. It was really cool and a special moment. I remember, being there for that first win.
And there weren't
cool.
like the big teams, like it's just like your crew versus their crew.
Yeah, and
so it was dope.
So
is that how it continued too? Is like the Miller gang was going? Like, did you schedule a fight with Mike on the card? Or
no, that was rare.
Okay,
it happened a few times, but that was not.
Happened what, twice?
Yeah, not a ton of times. But moving forward, you end up tapping some other guy out in like Alabama or something like that.
Yeah,
and then we get into one of my
Smoky Barn.
We get into one of my
between rounds.
My favorite bouts and stories of all time, and that's when you fought at the Macon City Auditorium. I wasn't there, but I've seen the video over and over. I was at a wedding for a friend at the time, and in this fight, you fought 2 men in one night.
Yeah,
not guys.
How old were you?
He's 19 or
okay.
so.
No,
but
wait, yeah, 19.
19, but I'm not talking about like below 18 and above 18. He's 19 years old at the time, and he's fighting guys that are 25, 27, 30, like 2 guys that were both up there, and they had some experience. And he was still young in the game.
No, I was 18.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for that.
Yeah.
I apologize. So 18 years old, he's fighting grown men, and twice in one night. And in the first fight, he has a very tough opponent in Patrick Norwood. And the guy clearly has some stand-up. He's from one of the Carolinas, got some amazing, at the time, boxing, and wrestling defense was pretty good too. and Micah takes some big shots, gets dropped.
It's the hardest I've ever been hit.
Rocked, and we did, like we said, we didn't have a lot of strikers we train with. We had some. Our coach had great kicks, but that's not the same as a boxer throwing the heavy hands. And he gets dropped, he gets rocked, ends up pushing through it, and somehow rises victorious. What'd you end up beating this guy with? Triangle choke. Okay, so he goes back to the back, and go tell him what happened in the back.
Yeah, I mean it's probably the worst beating I've ever took in that fight. Yeah, just got beat up, man. Just
you acquired a laceration.
Yeah, I got a lot of takedowns, but like got hit on the feet a good amount and on the ground after he rocked me. Cause dude, he hit me and my legs just went, and I couldn't feel my arms either.
He did the crazy dance.
Yeah, so like I did the little, and I see this guy coming at me, and I can't lift my arms, and I remember like going down to my knees, and the arms still don't work, and I was like but oddly calm for like a kid who's 18 years old and like is fighting. It's just
2,000 people or so.
Yeah, just, like not panicking at all.
Yeah,
it's really weird, but I think it just goes back to like how we came up. Like that was just kind of the way we came up. I feel like that's just how it was. I'm not gonna say like expected of you. Like it's like if you don't, you're letting somebody down. But it's just how we came up. And as I was going down, I reached and grabbed this guy, and he just beat me down some more. Beat me down. The Fedor Dan Henderson under the shoulder, like while you're on back.
Shots.
Yeah, just like coming up like that, and then I triangled this guy, and then I got in the back, and I have a cut over I think this eye, over this eyebrow, and we had a doctor that was the doctor that was overseeing the whole event. He was like friends with us on our side, so he stitched me up and in the back, yeah. And I remember I just laid there on my back, him stitching me up, and when he was done, I just laid there until it was time to fight again. And they just called me, and I remember I just sat up like the fucking Undertaker and and Tyson Fury.
Yeah,
sat up. They called my name.
So 2 fights in one night.
I went and
but got stitches. Like nowadays, if you had a tournament like that, the moment you get the laceration, it's just over for you.
Yeah.
Like you're not a loser. You don't lose the next bout by forfeit or anything. It doesn't go on your record. Yeah. You don't get to an alternate comes in, or that guy, the guy who won on the other side, he would just be the winner. But we were lucky. This is pre-Georgia Athletic Commission being involved in mixed martial arts. Micah was fortunate enough to be able to get stitched in the back, and then go out and fight another guy.
Yep. And that was just us, man. We just wanted it so bad. It was just what you did. Like, just represented the team. And I just went out there, and the guy that I fought was fresh. So I fought in a 3-man tournament because the fourth guy was out.
He no-showed.
Yeah, so he no-showed. So, and the guy that I fought second, like he came from Oklahoma, like he was pretty far away, and so I fought a fresh guy, went and got stitched up, and then I fought another fresh guy, and this guy was like this guy was like more all around than striking.
He's more well-rounded.
He had some grappling ability.
Yeah, he was more like all-around fighter as opposed to one guy was more striking heavy. And I remember we had a good little round, but where I got him, I remember I threw like a spinning back fist or something, and I missed, and he laughed. Like he smiled real big, and as he smiled, I socked him right in the face with a right hand, and he staggered backwards, and I just threw like a flurry, and then the round was over. But I got a little respect after that.
He's like, "Oh, we're spinning now."
Yeah. Like I spun, he laughed, and I just remember the shot that I hit him with as he was laughing was like so hard, it like knocked him back. It was so funny. But he had me in I I think the second round he had me in a guillotine that was really tight, man. And I remember like thinking about tapping. And they say things happen like super fast in there, and that's true. But it slowed down for me at that point. I was like, shit, am I going to quit right here? Like, man, I might just quit. Like, dude, you fought your ass off the first fight. Like,
it'll be okay.
One and one's not bad.
Yeah. Like, dude, like you fought. Like, you had a badass fight earlier. Like, dude, you can.
No shame.
There's no shame in tapping. It's just the shit that like you say to yourself to like. It's just like your voice. Your little Joe Rogan calls it the inner bitch.
Yeah.
Just like, dude, you can get out, but
you can go home now. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah, I remember just like kind of fighting with that voice for a second, and my head pops out, and as soon as it pops out, I think he tries to swing an arm bar, and I get the elbow out, and I just start hammer fisting him, and dude, he just goes out, like his body just goes limp, and it was shocked me because it was the first time I've ever knocked anybody out, and just to feel it was crazy, because we train so much. And just like I'm just getting those positions of like hammer fist and like all this stuff. It's just the first time you like hit somebody and you feel like their body just go out. It's like, oh my god, you just keep going. And yeah, Forrest pulled me off. Forrest Griffin was reffing, and yeah, it was a crazy night, man. It's one of my favorites.
So you go on to have an awesome amateur career, undefeated as an amateur. You end up meeting Brian Bowles, who later became the WEC World Bantamweight Champion. You and him have like probably one of the best amateur fights I've ever seen in my entire life.
It's my favorite fight to this day still.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. And the people, you guys that were not lucky enough to see that or be on the Georgia fight scene at a time where it was myself, Diego Saraiva, Micah, Rafael, Junior Osensau. Just shortly thereafter, the Lima brothers.
What was his name? Ryan. Was Jacare?
Ryan Ellison.
Yeah,
that guy was bad to the bone.
He was bad.
But we had just some phenomenal fighters.
Dude, our scene was really cool, man. It was really cool. It was really unique.
Ledbetter, Brian Bowles.
Yeah. Because we've been around a lot of scenes. Like Georgia had a really good scene at that time.
Yeah.
Just really cool people, really cool scene. Like everybody was supporting it. It was like growing, man. It was really cool.
Yeah. So we didn't have too much Georgia on Georgia crime, but this was for the baddest dude in all the Southeast. And Micah and Brian, you guys can. It's somewhere on my YouTube channel. We'll post a link for you guys to see it. But I fought on that same card as a pro, but they had a sick belt, sick fight, lots of cool grappling transitions, some cool strikes, bunch of jumping and flying and spinning. And
yeah, it was nuts.
Mike ends up winning with a flying triangle in the third round. Just one of the most incredible moments, I think, of your entire career.
It's my favorite.
Yeah.
I hate to say like I peaked as an amateur, but like, dude, it's my favorite. It just, nothing came close to that. Just hearing how this guy was like the guy.
And he was the guy.
And he was the guy. Like, I knew he was the guy. And just because we had a friend who kind of, I think, knew both or trained with both a little bit, and he would tell me how good he was, and like I knew the challenge that was coming, and I didn't really have a whole lot of like as far as training goes, like their methods were superior to ours at the time, especially like I had Donnie Blue really helping me for that, Cam a little bit, but like our training partners were kind of like.
Yeah, and for that fight, I was kind of half already at ATT.
Yeah, like you were half already there, and so our partners were kind of like dwindling a little bit. But Blue, man, he pushed me so much, and I put a lot of work in for that fight. So it felt so good to like fight somebody who was really the guy, and you knew you had such a challenge coming your way, and to just show up for it,
So you cap off phenomenal amateur career. You go to start and have a pro career. This is where we get in the wackiness. It's like you had a fight with this guy who you later fought, Larry Landry, and that is a no contest. But under today, like it would be very much like Vitor versus Randy Couture.
Yeah.
But they called it a no contest. But you delivered a legal strike that rendered him incapable of continuing, but they called it like a no contest. It was very odd.
Yeah, they called it no contest because it was so short. But it was
that's not a reason. It was so short. It was like
just shows you the commission state.
Like the knuckle got in the eyeball, or there was something like it sliced him. Okay, but it was a legal strike that rendered this guy unable to continue. And they called it a no contest because it was like the fight. It was the first strike thrown of the fight, very much like Randy versus Vitor 2, Randy versus Vitor 2. But then you go on to hook and shoot, and you try to have it. You are a pro now. You have had a pro bout. You have been paid for your show for performing a pro bout. Then you get a pro fight, which you are also paid for in hook and shoot.
Well, before that, we tried to go to Indiana to get the first pro fight.
Right.
Remember?
Right.
So the opponent gets arrested on the way to the venue.
Yeah.
As I'm supposed to fight him, and then we do a grappling tournament instead, where I get to I have a good match with the first guy. Second match, I flying triangle a guy named Tiny, who you can imagine how big he is if they give him the nickname Tiny. And then I grappled Chris Lytle in the finals, and that was like my first like taste of like a high level guy. You know?
Yeah, he was in the UFC killing it.
And then we get to that.
Yeah, then the no contest, and then this hook and shoot thing, and this guy somehow this fight has been on your amateur record a couple times, pro record a couple times, because this guy tries to come and say that it was an amateur fight, but it was a pro bout. Micah was paid and compensated for this bout. He was already a pro fighter. Once you go pro, you can't go back to amateur.
Right.
But this guy doesn't want a loss as his first pro fight. You know what I'm saying? Because he was making his debut.
Right.
You know. But
what I think happened was that Jeff Osborne paid me and didn't pay him.
Oh, you think that's how it went? So you think this guy really believed?
Yeah,
he was in an amateur bout?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, wow.
Because that was kind of the scummy thing is like he brought me in, like he brought me in even because I didn't have I didn't bring anybody. I had Mike Camp there, and I think that was it, who was helping manage me at the time, and this guy had a extensive amateur background. He was like 10-1 or something. He had a lot of amateur fights, and they paid me and they didn't pay him. And then and then they saw that fight was on my pro record, and they were like, "That's not a pro fight." And it's like, "Yeah, it was because I fought pro earlier before you." And it was just like,
oh man,
it was the you know.
So it doesn't matter. Some
went.
websites have that listed on your pro, and some website it doesn't matter.
They're all real fights.
They're all real
so
fights.
I don't care.
It's not like the new rules where there's all these commissions and you were wearing shin guards and 7-ounce gloves and standing 8 rules. They were fights, but it just regardless. That was just MMA at the time. It's just a funny mention. It
shows you the state of kind of like the commissions and the rules, and they were in flux then.
So you go on. I have it noted here as a bajillion fight tear. Okay, so you have a bajillion fight tear. You're just killing it, and I'm on the Ultimate Fighter. You get while I'm there, I find out you had a win and you crushed this guy, which was dope. And I get off the show, and 2 months later, you have your first fight. You're already under contract to fight in the WEC. You're training. You ended up switching teams. You moved to Athens to train with the Hardcore Gym, which is now SBG Athens. Guys, they've always been a Straight Blast affiliate back before it was cool. But it'll always be the Hardcore Gym to us.
Yeah. And
they had the team. And what I loved about them was that they were not part of the Atlanta fight scene. Atlanta's got like a nose in the air kind of deal, but these guys were always over here doing their own thing and making awesome fighters. They created Forrest Griffin, world champion. They created Brian Bowles, world champion. And Roy Singer was a good fighter, and Adam Singer was a mastermind of a technician. They had Chad Schaefer back then at the time, who right now he is one of the best MMA minds in all of the country. And he's just floating around He coaches in Gwinnett now. So go train with him if you get to see him. But you switch, you join that team, and they're training you, and you're starting to train like a professional now. Like you're doing organized training, specific goals for specific training sessions, building your weaknesses up, making your strength stronger. Getting the training partners and the looks that you needed to fight at a high level. And at this point, Zuffa, or the people the parent company that owns the UFC or owned the UFC at the time, they had already purchased the WEC. So you're in a Zuffa-controlled WEC, and this is the pinnacle of the new pinnacle of mixed martial arts at under 155 pounds. So you're fighting at 145 pounds. The big show, you're the first one to make it between us to the big show, and you end up fighting this guy, Jesse Meringue. And for those of you that have UFC Fight Pass, you can go check out all of Micah's WEC fights, a few of his non-WEC fights. It's really cool to see him so young, and he's 7-0 or whatever, and he ends up getting a sick triangle choke there, winning his first fight on the big show, ends up fighting Cub Swanson in what was fight of the night. He's 20 years old at the time that he fights Cub Swanson. So, let that soak in for a second. He was 18 years old when he had his first amateur fight. He is 20 years old fighting in the WEC and has a pro record of 8-0. We're talking about, and he'd already had.
Yes, we had 13 fights between 18 and 20.
Correct. So he's got a 5-0 amateur record, 8-0 pro record. He's getting it on, okay? And, loses a decision there. I think that at that time, Cub was just too good. When you look back at it, I still think you could have won. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about who was the better fighter, and Cub was just simply the better fighter. He had too good a striking. You didn't have the head movement. You didn't have the understanding of defensive striking at the time. But I think it was a good loss. You definitely got better following that loss. That's what we can call a good loss, where we learn, where we become better versions of ourselves because of it. Following that, you're now an ATT guy. You have moved to South Florida. You step out
there a couple months for that one.
You step out of the WEC and you go and you take a fight, which is, they tell you not to, but they told you you're going to be on the fence for a little bit. You're going to be on the, waiting your turn to fight again. That's what happens when you lose. And these guys aren't doing events like you guys see them today. Like there's a fight every week. Micah's having to wait. They're doing a show every month or every other month, and they're not going to put you on back-to-back shows. So you're waiting to get to the show after. So probably 6 months on the waiting list, So he ends up stepping outside, which is, he knows if you lose, you're not coming back. You're not welcome back. So they granted him the ability to go fight outside WEC. He fights this guy, Steve Kinnison. It shows a decision here, but he actually knocked the guy out with 1 second left.
Yeah.
Knocks him out with a brutal knee to the face, split his wig. Yeah. So it was really cool to be there, see that. It was amazing. You get the call back to WEC. You fight Chance Farrar, who had fought Uriah Faber for the title, and that's probably one of your best fights of all time. You guys can go check that out. Micah starts to show some range, some understanding of a deeper level of striking, which he improved immensely working with Howard Davis at the time. And of course, I'm fighting in the UFC in this timeline, and we're just improving at a very rapid rate. You end up fighting Josh Grisby, which was just a horrible upset. You go in there, it's the featured fight of the night.
That was my contract fight.
Yeah, it was the last fight.
A new strength and conditioning program for that, and I was just, some of the best shape that I've ever seen for sure.
You get touched behind the ear, behind the ear. You hit the mat. You're in a position of open guard, and you're kind of like just hanging out, and Herb Dean stops the fight. It was a little premature. You were rocked. No one's questioned that, but it just it didn't go your way that night, and that's one of those fights that you don't really learn a lot from, and it's just super depressing. You got to go and you got to battle that, and so that was your 4-fight stay at WC. You went 2-2. You had like a sub of the night and a fight of the night, and really just showed an impeccable performance. But when it came to renew, you're just like, man, nah. They kind of gave a number that wasn't representative of the level of skill that and the work that you were putting in. And so we go try the hat and trying to get Japan.
I don't really remember an offer really either.
It was the same thing that you had been paid before.
Yeah.
And basically we just said, nah, man, we're just going to go try our hat for Japan.
Yeah.
So you fight a guy, Jason Palacios. We pulled the fight up last week. Myself and Joe did, and it was awesome. Fight. Very tough fighter. Guy, veteran in Japan of pancrase multiple times. You get around to his back. He abandons the whizzer. You take the back standing with a figure four, body lock, body triangle. Work your way to the ground. Get the rear naked choke. Awesome finish, and then. Herein lies like the opportunity of a lifetime where we go to Japan for Dream 7, and it's part of this big Dream bantamweight tournament, and you have drawn Yoshihiro Maeda for the first round, world class bantamweight.
Yep.
And just to be able to get the opportunity, I know was like very emotional, and that's where like the real.
Man, I cried when they told me I was gonna be in it.
Yeah, I remember the car ride, and then
man.
The hard work really began. That's where we're training with IHP with Juan Carlos Santana, one of the best strength and conditioning coaches in the world. And in this, you're fighting a 10-minute round and a 5-minute round. And so, I just remember. Whoa, hey there. So I just remember the circuits that you did were insane at the time. The people at home. We're gonna spare them how long it would take to talk about the level of work. They wouldn't even be able to believe it unless they stepped foot in and saw some of the circuits that we did. The type of stuff that makes professional athletes throw up, and it was test and tune on Micah because he had not had a guy fight a 10-minute round yet.
Yeah.
And
I was on an extreme diet because the weight was so low. Because they had Kid Yamamoto. This was the tournament for him basically to come show out, and he wanted to fight at 63 kilograms, so it was 138.9 pounds, and I was fighting at 45, but there was no way I could say no to whatever it was. It was like whatever the weight is, I was going to say yes. It didn't matter.
So you made 138, no problem.
The point is, doing those circuits on the diet that I was on was just.
He was weighing
insane.
his food on a scale. It was very disciplined. Very disciplined.
It was wild.
Probably not the best thing for his body.
No,
like his
not at
body
all.
was still young, trying to grow, and he's suppressing the growth with the hardcore dieting. And nobody's saying it's the right thing to do or the smart thing to do, but you have to respect the level of discipline and the dedication and the drive. Just because you did it to yourself and it wasn't imposed upon you doesn't make it any less impressive. Yeah. I think it makes it a little bit more impressive, because you volunteered to do, something that difficult. And
it's just show it. Like if you have the saying? Like if you have the why, you can bear any how. Mm-hmm. It was like, dude, the why was stronger than it's ever been. Like there was no why stronger, So it drove me.
And if you guys want to
see, for sure.
If you guys want to see, I'll plug IHP real quick. If you guys want to see the type of stuff that JC does, or you have questions, you can contact him. It's like at IHP Fit on Instagram. But he was one of the guys on the forefront of sports specific functional training. Excuse me. And he had circuits for every type of sport, every type of athlete. I remember when you were doing the Dream circuit, we had guys from DevGru that came through, SEAL Team 6. Some of you know it as that. He was putting these guys through Micah's circuit because he wanted to see everybody from every part of MMA or pro athlete. He was putting them through the Micah circuit because it was the first time anybody had done anything like that. Micah's times were insane, and he wanted to see if where Micah was with the rest of the pack, but he had to get the rest of the pack to come in and do the hard stuff. So he had football players and judoka and swimmers and other MMA fighters coming in and doing it, and Micah was operating on it at a high level on a whole different kind of wavelength. Like he would go somewhere else on the Versa Climber. But it's pretty impressive. If you guys have any questions about some of those circuits, you can go ask JC yourself. But you lose the fight in Japan, but I think it was a good experience. I still, to this day, have never fought in front of a crowd that you've got to fight in front of. It's 30,000 plus people at Saitama Super Arena in Tokyo.
Yeah, man, it was
epic. It was
a dream come true.
Yeah, it was pride.
What can you say? Yeah.
Yeah. He had the Pride lady announced his name, and for me, it's one of the coolest moments for you.
Yeah,
I guess.
It's surreal just because I got there way faster than I ever thought I could ever get there, So I guess that would be something that you could take away, that was always the goal, but I never envisioned that it would happen that fast. But I put the work in to make it happen, and it just so happened that like I always wanted to do that, but it wasn't like there was a clear path to doing it either. It was like I was at the WC at the time that they weren't really like playing ball, and dream was kind of like coming around,
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like, it's, what do they say, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. It's like, man, if you're like, I was ready, and it just came down it just came one day, and I was ready for it.
Yeah. So you take the loss, decision loss. Another thing to point out, almost all your losses are decisions. You go on a 3-fight tear. You're basically a heavy hitter at this point, and you're playing with your food. These people are your prey, and you're the predator. So you fight outside of a major show again for 3 fights, and you're just destroying these guys. I remember being there for all these fights. It wasn't even competitive. And in some of those, you literally were just playing with them. Then you get the opportunity to fight in Astra, which is this kind of like Dream versus Sengoku one-off event that they did for whose retirement was it?
Akiyama, or no?
No.
Yoshida.
Yeah, okay. Yoshida. Judo legend, judo gold medalist for Japan. Fought a bunch of times in Pride. Fought Vanderlei, fought all the guys. Yeah. And it's his retirement fight. He's fighting his student. And I think that the first 2 rounds were probably like a work because they trained with one another. It was his student,
it was pretty
Nakamura.
awesome, not gonna lie.
And it was great to watch. And this was at Budokan, Nippon Budokan was the venue. Yeah. And some of you know that as a famous concert venue where the Rolling Stones or somebody like that played at Nippon Budokan. A lot of big people have played there. Yeah. And there's a lot of the big sumo events happen there. So really awesome thing. You lose a decision again to Michihiro Omagawa, another guy that one of Japan's all-time best fighters. No shame in that, but it just seems like you're right there.
Still like early 20s, like this guy's.
This is 2010.
Yeah.
Then you crush 3 more dudes. You have Bruce Connors, UFC veteran Diego Saraiva, and Tachi Palace fighting champion Isaac De Jesus. You just run through them, and then we get to the Ultimate Fighter, which is, where we're at the time. We just know that you're gonna win.
Yeah.
You're gonna win this whole thing, and then the confidence is high. Nobody is going to beat you. This is the first Ultimate Fighter that they're doing for 145 pounders. No, it wasn't just a mindset. He was the best guy. He was like the best prospect that was not signed, period. And then just tragedy. Yeah. Just like unfortunate, bad luck. At the end of the day, you could put this on yourself and say, well, I should have done this. And that would also be true. But it doesn't make it like, man, it wouldn't have gone like that. It seems, anyways, for some other person. Maybe just briefly tell us about the situation, what it's like on the Ultimate Fighter with the vans, the production.
Just a really weird experience. Preparation, you're trying to keep your weight low because you're going to have to make weight multiple times. So you don't want to have any kind of weird weight issues, So I remember my weight was pretty good. I think I was like 150 kind of going in, which was really easy to make the cut. But I remember, man, going in there, like we had a flight at like 5 or 6 in the morning, so we had to get up at like 4:30 or something to go catch this flight, and then we hit it, and like the flight's delayed, you know, and they don't have any more to Vegas for like, I don't know, 5 hours or something, so you're just doing that. Then you get to Vegas, then you get to what is it, Station Casinos was one of the places where they were doing it at. Gonna be honest, not the best hotel. All right, pretty low quality hotel, especially if you're doing something as big as the Ultimate Fighter. Because UFCs, they're putting fighters in the Palms, they're putting them in MGM, they're putting them in what's the other one? I don't remember. MGM, Mandalay Bay. You're putting them there, but we're in a pretty low quality hotel. So you're trying to keep your weight low. Weigh-ins are the next day. I know a lot of people are scrambling to make weight, but I was pretty good. Like I kept my weight low for that reason, because there was going to be no scramble. I just kind of like keeping the water high, just pretty much eating dried fruit and some nuts and kind of trail mixed style, just to kind of get me to the scale. Let's see. Yeah, so pretty much take a hot shower the next day. We weigh in, and everybody is just in terrible shape, man, because everybody's just had cut weight, and they had us in these vans where it was in the middle of the summer, and dudes are just dehydrated completely, but they're basically in another sauna, because everybody's in a van, and we're out in the middle of the Vegas summer, and like the sun is beating down on these vans that we're in, while inside they're prepping for the TV part of it, because they're gonna do some corny ass thing where they open the venue and then we all walk in and they're shooting it and all that, but dude, we're just sitting in there baking, and guys are like, they're about to riot, like they're about to punch. I remember Marcus Brimage was like, I'm about to punch through this car window if you guys don't like do something with us. Like, people were freaking out, man. And they finally get us out. We do all the TV stuff. People are just like barely standing for this stuff. Everybody's like so dead because they've made weight already, and they're just waiting to get on the scale. But we're baking in a van. We're doing the TV stuff. We're shooting the Dana intro.
And typically, for those that don't know, what happens is you get off the scale. You get your food, your drinks, all this stuff. And when they picked you up, they said you can't bring anything with you. And Micah's eating clean, only the best, which a lot of fighters still don't do today.
Yeah.
So like,
he's cooking for myself. Like,
he's only putting the cleanest of food because he's like, I'm gonna win this thing. He's trying to be the highest level of professional there could be, and doing all the things right. And they're like, no, you can't bring it. So when he gets off the scale, what is it? You get to have some water, but we still have more filming to do, and we still have other things to do.
You got physicals.
And here you go. You guys can have this like creamy pasta, and
no, they had a big bar, but like the food wasn't up to par. Like for like. They had sodas and just for what you'd expect, and just for what I was doing. Like, right. I was way beyond what the guys on the show were like drinking soda after they weighed in and stuff. Yeah. It was crazy. And did my interview, man. Went in there, like I knew that they don't let you leave until you give them a soundbite. Mm-hmm. So I just went in there. I went in full McGregor, like trash talk, like just give some trash,
give the production team what they want.
Exactly what they want, so I could leave and go eat. And dude, just felt terrible like that night. Just pretty much vomiting all the water up that I was like forcing down from post weigh-in. Mm-hmm. Just feeling terrible, like having like this weird, like where you're cold but you're hot, like you're nauseous, like just my body. I think I don't know if it's food poisoning. I don't know what if it was the
trash food,
the food, the
hormone levels,
where my body was like getting in the shape I was in, then not having any sleep because like didn't want to miss the flight versus the flight ended up being
just
delayed
stress.
5 hours. Yeah, just like
the stress.
When I look at that whole roller coaster ride, like all the way up to it, like I can't put a finger on what it was, but the body was rejected. Like whatever was happening, like with the food, the stress, the body was just shutting down.
So and you can see that in the fight. The fight is awful. Those of you that fight past,
the fight's terrible.
You can watch it. You can tell it's not Micah when you see him in his other fights, and not making excuses. He loses to Steven Seiler, who I lost to, who world champion Mike Brown lost to. Good fighter, not in question. But the fact of the matter is, it's like it wasn't you fighting, and then that's like, that's going to be your opportunity for a while. There's not going to be, you don't get two more wins and then get a rebound after something like that. This is like, it's going to set you back 2 years at minimum. Like you're going to have to go fight your butt off, and that's when we kind of start to getting into like some losses. This is kind of the beginning of, I guess, what I would call more of a journeyman type of stage in your career.
It's like this post-tough hangover, like
and
period of just
you
depression and like just no direction, no real, like you're just competing because that's what you do. You're on autopilot, but like at the same time, it's like still just holding on to just bad habits, bad feelings about like the opportunity that you missed out on, and just
misblaming on other things. Like you just like, but you still, anyways, I remember you came back with like a vengeance, with a hard training camp preparing for Georgie Karakanyan. This is where we get into a guy where I was wrapping your hands in the back and they said the fight's off because you were operating at a high level once more. 5-round title fight, sick training camp, 6 circuits, unreal times that you were putting out on the circuits, incredible shape, and this was your like, oh yeah, I'm gonna show that I'm the man. Now I'm gonna make up for what I did on the Ultimate Fighter, and then this guy steps off. Well, then you end up having to. It's not a rematch. The fight gets rebooked. He said that he had a belly ache. I think he had a tummy ache or something, and he had a small fever. And you go to fight him, and you have staff, but because you only got show money to fight him before, and now you're waiting this whole time because it's a title fight. So like a lot of people don't understand this. Like you're waiting 8-9 months with only show money, and you're spread so thin. So even when you had staph infection, you didn't have to take the fight. You didn't have to. But when people step inside what a pro fighter lives like, you understand that you felt like you had to.
Yeah.
Like I guess you could have borrowed money or maybe gone to a bank loan and said, I need a loan to get me 6 more months. Oh, what's your job? Oh, you're a struggling pro fighter? No, we're not giving you a bank. But maybe there was some options, but you feel when you're too close to it, you feel like there's no options. You're like, I gotta do this, even though you had staff. So you do that fight. You don't look like yourself once more. 5-round decision. You step out, reevaluate. It's time to move up in weight. You move up from 145 to 155 pounds, brutally knock this guy out with a knee. You take another fight at 155 pounds. You fight Josh Shockley, who ends up going to fight in the UFC himself. And it says here 153 pounds versus 156 pounds. Was that you that weighed in at 153?
Who?
Against Josh Shockley?
Maybe. Yeah.
So
he wasn't the bigger, but yeah.
Okay, maybe you weigh in underweight, and you lose a decision. Just a wrestler, any other state, if it was his home state, his home show, bro, he just laid in your closed guard. And
I had the triangle too that just didn't finish it.
Yep, and that's your fault too.
Yeah, no, that's 100% my fault.
But any other state, the ref would have stood, hit him up because this guy was being a blanket. But it's not the way it goes. So you lose again. Then you go fight Ben Brewer, Macon. All right, I'm moving up to 170. Or I'm sorry, you end up fighting Eddie Larea, 170 pounds. Your first fight, destroy this guy. He truly is a journeyman.
Yeah.
You beat him. You go fight this guy, Bristol Maroon Day.
Yeah, he missed weight too. So
yeah, 170 pounds, and this guy used to be
175.
This guy used to be a heavyweight.
Yeah.
And he's cutting down. You meet in the middle. Take a decision loss to him. You had good moments, but decision loss. You go home to Macon, Georgia. Ben Brewer, a guy with a great record at the time. He's 9-2. 170. A guy who's a true 170. He's big, but he's truly a 170 pounder.
Yeah.
Get cut. You win a round. He wins 2 rounds. Decision loss. And it just goes like that. You get another win at 170 pounds fighting Kenny Good to Go Goudreau on Titan, and then your last fight in Atlanta, another athlete that missed weight, Jared Gooden. You take another decision loss from a guy who'd fought at 185, and in that time you start to. Not only was there the post-Ultimate Fighter, it's depressing type of stuff. You're preparing. You truly have this belief that you're meant to move up in weight, like we had mentioned before, but it's not going your way. So you have this belief it's gonna work, but it's not working. You kind of skip 155. You were in it there for 2 fights,
a little bit,
and you just kind of like a rock skipping. You go straight to 70, and you're not a 70 pounder, but you're like, no, I'm gonna be. It's gonna be like this, and then you start to, take some hard shots. You're honestly the better striker in all of these, and you kind of give them the business, but they start landing some hard ground and pound. You get a bad laceration in a fight. Then you start to have some neck issues in here.
Yeah, that was probably. What's the time on this one? Yes, that's probably around a little bit after the one in Macon with Brewer. Yes, around 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2015, 2016.
And I'm just gonna kind of glaze over that, but being there, it's like
that's funny because that's probably the most traumatic thing I've ever been through.
Yeah, that's
No
why
doubt.
I just wanted you to just touch on that.
Yeah.
But I don't want us to go on every
tangent,
little thing
Neither
related to your neck problems. But if you could just tell us, the severity of the neck issues that you had, and a couple of the symptoms that you were having to go through while you're trying to also hold on to this, not just a dream, but this conviction that you're a professional fighter and you're going to do it, and you're gutting through some of these symptoms you're going to explain to us.
Yeah, so I'll try to keep it quick because this thing consumed my life for 3 or 4 years. Starts having neck pain, starts having arm pain, starts having pain in the fingers pretty much, and it radiates down my arm. Basically, you're trying to like Cole said, you're trying to make this thing happen while you have this injury, and I've never been hurt before, so I don't know how serious of an injury is it, because never been hurt before, and I noticed that it gets really serious once I just start having issues being out. I can't be out anymore with friends and just hang out at a bar. It's oh, I got to go home now because my neck hurts. It's okay, you start to realize that that's not normal. And then I got to a point where I wanted to try chiropractic. I wanted to try to treat it least invasive to most. So I tried a little bit of chiropractic treatment. I got worse. Went to University of Miami Hospital. Went to the physical medicine department. Got evaluated. They said that just do a little bit of physical therapy for 6 to 8 weeks. Things should improve. And it just, at that point when I heard that, it was okay, that can't be right, because things were just way too severe for this to be solved in 6 to 8 weeks. But again, what hadn't been hurt before, didn't try physical therapy before ever.
And these people are black belts in medicine,
right?
So you're trusting them and you're listening to them.
You're trusting them. But at this point, my arm is it's more of an appendage hanging from my body than like an arm. It's like it's dead. Like I can't. It doesn't make any sense. It's like an oxymoron to say like it's numb and it hurts. But
were you incurring atrophy?
Yeah. So the arm is shrinking. Like it's shrinking, and it's just like it feels like it's just a part of the body now. It's like not my actual arm.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have like a real arm, and I have just this weird like arm that's just feels dead. Just
and you're training with
flopping
this.
around. Yeah. Just training, trying to like, if it's nobody's going, oh my God, look at this. Like, so I just keep going.
And with some perspective, like when you're here at the creek,
yeah,
there's dudes who are having surgeries. There's dudes tearing ACLs. There's dudes with lacerations. There's dudes with broken bones and broken hands. This is not the sport or mindset of people that when they get injured, they just go, oh, guess I'm going to do nothing. It's always train harder. That's always the answer to everything.
Yeah. And especially when nobody's telling you that it's like severe.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're still trying to push through practice, do everything. Get to a point where you do the physical therapy, it doesn't work. So, okay, now it's time to talk to the next guy up. So you talk to the next guy up who's going to give you these injections. Talk to him. He's like, tell him I wanted to talk to a surgeon, and he says that if he sent my MRI to the surgeons, they would laugh at him. And then it's like, oh, okay, so I'll do whatever treatments that we want to do.
Because nothing's wrong with you.
Like, it's not bad enough for surgery. Okay. So you get the injections. The first one, you get relief for like a day, 2 days. Doesn't work. Then you get the next one, get a little relief for like, I don't know, a couple weeks. He decides against the third one, then he sends me to some guy to like start getting like nerve blocks and shit, like all this stuff. And I show up to this place, and the guy is trying to like just give me like destroy the nerves and give me pain pills.
Mm-hmm.
So it at that point was a really big point where it was like I felt like I was kind of on my own, and I was being like, I've heard about people in medicine being shoved down the pain pill pipeline, but I was like, I'm living this now. Like, I'm now this person who like, I'm not taking any pain pills at the time. I'm basically just using marijuana to just get as high as possible every day, like every minute of every day, and try to be awake as little as possible. Is how I spent like a few years. And not taking pain pills.
Wow.
And it just, that moment is like one of the craziest moments in my life, because like you see people and hear about people being like pushed down a pain pill pipeline by like the pharmaceutical company and like stuff like that, but it was like, wow, I'm now one of the people who's like being pushed down the pipeline. It was really, really weird. And from there on, I talked to a surgeon. He told me that he wouldn't operate, that I was done, that if I was a football player, nobody would ever hire me in the league ever,
mm-hmm.
and that you know, I should consider doing something else. And then I went to New York and found a guy named Dr. Dane Rue, who operated on Chris Weidman. So that's who made me seek him out. And I saw him, and I just knew right away that like talking to him was different than talking to these people who were like trying to get me to take pills and like do all this stuff. And I was like, okay, I feel, you know, he's done it on somebody who, you know, I think Weidman had his surgery and came back and beat Kelvin Gastelum. So I was like,
mm-hmm.
okay, that, you know, that's promising. This guy's working with athletes. So yeah, I do the surgery. It's the greatest day of my life, still to this day. To just get that life that I was living, like I feel like I really got my life back that day.
And what type of surgery? So like these other people tell you that you don't need it, that there's nothing to do, that a surgeon would laugh at him if he sent you to one. And this guy, Dr. Rue, does the surgery. What surgery did they do, and what did he say about the status of your neck?
Yeah, he said you need surgery, no question. Like, it's very obvious. And
the doctors you were seeing in Miami, those were not low-level spinal physicians.
No. I saw a guy that was, regarded as one of the best guys in the Southeast with neck, and basically he didn't do the type of procedure that Dr. Rue was doing, which was double disc replacement, which is still
not fusion.
Yeah, so it's still fairly new. But it's funny, Dr. Rue actually came up with that other surgeon.
Right.
So they trained together.
Mm-hmm.
They were trained under the same guy, I think. And he basically that technique that he does is, I guess, a little riskier.
They thought it was too risky.
Yeah.
Right.
So that the other guy
went
too
his
risky
way
for him. Yeah. So
right.
he doesn't believe in that, and then Dr. Rue is basically just willing to get good at something that is risky.
Considered high risk.
Yeah.
But it's not high risk to those that only do that.
Right.
It's like in grappling, there's high risk moves, high risk takedowns. But if those are the takedowns you do, then they're not high risk to you.
Yeah. Right. Spinning back kick is risky if you're somebody else. But if you're Wonderboy Thompson, like
right,
and
you live in that world. So this physician is doing this risky surgery so often, it's routine to him. Right. So you get 2 brand new discs, artificial discs. You wake up, and it's the best day of your life.
Immediately better.
You wake up knowing that you're a new person.
Yeah, I know it's better, and it's just awesome, man. It's the cliche, like you don't know what you have till it's gone. Like, dude, the health was just gone for years, just gone, and you kind of see how that affects you mentally. Your physical affects your mental. Your mental affects your physical. Like they're intertwined. And just to be able to get that back, man, was what gave me a new perspective on things. And I was just so happy. I wish I could radiate with gratitude, like for the rest every day, like I did like the week after that surgery, because it felt different, for sure.
So that brings us to current. You had to spend some time, of course, after a major surgery like that. You have to spend some time recovering, self-exploration. You moved out to LA for a little bit.
Yep.
And we're here in Coconut Creek, Florida, at American Top Team HQ, the Mecca for martial arts. And what are you doing back here in South Florida? What are you doing now?
Yeah. I moved to California just because during my time, like, just pretty much being a injured person, you think about like your life is pretty much not yours anymore, almost, like, so you just start thinking about all the things that you want to do, that you never did, and some of the stuff that you could have done that you just took for granted that you still don't do. So I moved out to California. I always wanted to, like, do some more nature stuff. I like the vibe over there. So I was like, yeah, well, I don't have any kids. I'm young. Like, I can just move just because I can, like, so I'll do it. I've really looked up to some of the techniques Eddie Bravo's done, especially for MMA. Some stuff that I know is really good for my body type, my style, my game. And I just thought, like, man, if like the doctor said this is all over, like, I'd really regret if I never got to just go out there and, like, train with that guy and, learn from him, pick his brain, and use some of that stuff, because I know that I could use it. So yeah, I started training with Eddie, and now I'm back, and I'm ready to, like, continue that path. Like, I'm not happy or satisfied with the way the last, I don't know, 5 years have gone, and it's just about taking the next 5 and just, with everything that I've learned, all the experience I've learned, and just putting my best 5 years forward. And I should probably have more of a linear goal, but, like, man, it's really about personal sovereignty at this point. Like, I'm not trying to get to the UFC or be a champion or, like, any of that. It's like, it's about finishing out these next years doing taking everything that I've learned and structuring it in a way where I just put max effort forward and just close it out on my terms, because the middle chapter of my career, it was not on my terms. So it's just, that's what it's about for me the next few years.
It's cool to see like the evolution, not only you guys coming up in the sport, but the evolution of like, oh, this is just how we train. This is just how we came up. This is just how, you know, we sparred, like, and then to see the growth of an understanding of, no, you've got to actually structure it, and like, you know, you need to be well rounded. You need to sharpen all your spears and stuff, and then for you to, you know, be on this ride, and it's like, man, I'm fighting like, you know, big name. I'm fighting fucking Cub Swanson, like all these big names and stuff, and then for it to crumble, and then it's like, okay, I know how to be a champion. I know how to structure this. I know how the training needs to go. I know my nutrition, you know, and the growth not only in the sport but as fighters coming up. Like, you started when it wasn't mainstream. You started when it wasn't a thing, and now, you know, I mean, you want to strike like Boss Rutan, buy his Boss Rutan thing.
Yeah,
like
it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere, man.
You know, but you know, like the ebbs and flow of how this road goes, because you've been on the high end, you've been on the low end, and
so now it's just about like walking the road. It's like, I don't like, there's nothing that could ever happen like in the career that could ever be worse than where I've been the past few years. So it's just like, there's so much more pressure off. Like, what's this? I heard Matt Brown saying this the other day. It was like it was like Viktor Frankl quoted it in one of his books. It was like, want to have money? Like, assume you'll be broke forever or something. You know, it's like you pretty much, because he says he assumes he's going to die in every fight that he's in. So he just kind of like, he makes peace with it. He's not coming out. And the fact that he does that, he gives him the freedom for during the fight, like, because there's no like,
I had this
feeling.
Mentality.
Yeah.
Almost my whole career, I had this mentality. I'm already dead.
Yeah.
I'm already dead.
Yeah. But for me, it wasn't as much that. It was like, man, like, from the management side of like building the resume that was, you know, I was very proud of, and like getting a lot of good opportunities early before I was really ready. And then now that I'm like, I feel
rising to those opportunities.
Yeah, and now I feel more like I'm better than I've ever been, but like the opportunities now aren't there, because like,
that's not the way the sport is.
Yeah, people kind of see you when you're young, and they want to see like, give it to this guy, that guy, this guy, that guy, and it's like, man, I got the ball before I was really ready to run with it, and now that I'm ready to run with it, I don't have the ball. You know, it's just like that. But so yeah, like for that, what you're saying about the you're ready to die, like for me, it's like, man, the finances were so hard, like, for coming up. It was so hard to like try to. You're supposed to give everything that you have to like to what you can to succeed at the highest level, but in doing so, you don't really leave your much time for anything to like kind of like support yourself. So I've kind of come to peace with like, I was like, okay, I'll be broke till I'm 40. How about that? Like, I'll just make peace with the fact that like I won't have a penny to like rub together until I'm old. And like, is that worth like you giving everything you have for like the next 5 years and like it actually turning out good? It's like, yeah, that's worth it.
Yeah,
that's worth it to me.
I think that's a good note to end on.
Cheers.
Thanks for being the first guest on the podcast.
I'm happy
to my main training partner.
Yeah,
and
happy to work out the kinks with this thing. I know it's going to be a big deal for you going forward. So
yeah, and mostly for our students, especially who got to have a short time with you when you came down to teach for us for a little while, and I know that you made an impact in the little time that you were there. People still bring up, oh, Micah showed that cool thing, and like, for me, that's the biggest thing that I've got going right now is like, I'm trying to make the maximum impact, and you just being at our academy for a short time made a maximum impact on a lot of the students. They still talk about your lack of acknowledgement of them, and just some of the really cool moves that you taught. They're like, oh man, Micah showed this cool thing from this S mount, or the position that we have dubbed the Maverick. I'll just last little plug. If you guys want to see this really cool move set from this position, bring him in for a seminar or get a private lesson from him on it, because I'll need probably 5 more lessons on this position before I'll feel probably comfortable with it. But the students loved having you. I know I loved having you there.
It was awesome.
And it was really cool. And first guess.
Cheers, brother.
Woo! Social media at Mavy McMav. That's at Mavy MAVY
MC
MC
MAV
MAV Mavy Mick Mav at Coleman Martial Arts. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
That's mine.
on Twitter, on IG. You're not on Twitter.
I'm not on Twitter. Instagram. IG all day, all the way.
Yoga Joe.
And
Joe Boy Fresh.
Joe
Aloy.
Aloy.
They know how to say it. They just want to give everybody shit.
Aloy. At the Joe Boy Fresh. Peace.